For the day, we will have our next speaker coming up, Sonali Mungale, Director People and Capability, Mastercard Incorporated. Sonali, if you can see you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello,
Great.
everyone.
Over to you, Sonali. Yeah.
Very good afternoon to everyone, and thanks to Jobs for Her for providing this wonderful platform to talk about something very important and very critical, that's diversity and inclusion. Before I really get started, I want to just quote this line that when everyone is included, everyone wins. I think the new age organizations today and the new age generation today strongly believes in that, right? That holding hands together, giving a hand on the back to each other so that we all move forward together and lean in together. I think that's exactly the principle what Mastercard also has, is bringing in people from diverse workforces, bringing people from diverse backgrounds, and helping them become successful in the organization. And as an employer, we do whatever possible to ensure that we are able to accommodate the context and the circumstances they've come from and help them bring their whole self to work. Now, when I talk about this entire philosophy, where's this philosophy basically coming from? This philosophy basically comes from our fundamental foundation that is called Mastercard Way. Mastercard Way is our guiding force to build our culture, a culture where we believe that the best people choose to be. It's basically an organization where we want our colleagues, my friends, my employees, my team members to bring their hearts, minds, and the whole selves to work. Because only when they bring their whole selves to work is when they would be basically bringing in their entire productivity, and they would be able to bring in new thoughts, be able to push boundaries as well. As an organization that we are, in the payment solution space, certainly disruption is something which happens every other day, right? And we certainly believe that our anchor is innovation. And innovation is only possible when we are able to challenge each other. Challenging each other is only possible when we have diverse people coming from diverse backgrounds, be it gender, ethnicity, race, class, experiences, coming together, challenging for good. I think that's what I want to basically say, is challenging for good, challenging for pushing the limits of the organization. So, what is Mastercard Way, which is certainly our guiding principle? It is a foundation of every policy that we lay, every practice that we implement. Mastercard Way basically has its underpinning foundation in decency. We believe in being a decent organization. Decency is something which we expect from each and every employee. That's what DQ is. It stands for. The three pieces which form a part of the Mastercard Way are being inclusive. So just imagine being inclusive is a strong, inherent, and a very important piece of our Mastercard Way culture. We expect every employee to demonstrate inclusivity, and of course there are support systems, there are practices, there are interventions which are guided to make an employee understand what inclusion means, irrespective of what role a person plays. Force for good is something that we talk about being a social change agent. So, everyone in the organization is a social ambassador for good. We are moving towards a world where we want everyone to be successful, and for that, we need to hold hands together. And as an employee, what can I do? And that's where our another important piece of the pillar is force for good. And the last but not the least, unlock potential. So providing that ecosystem and space for every employee to basically challenge their own selves, not really limit to their own self beliefs, but push their boundaries. And all the three pillars have further behaviors that we talk about, which stands at the core. Relentless focus on our customers, which is the center of our behaviors. Our customers are whom we work for, and there has to be undivided focus on our customers' needs. How? By owning it, by simplifying it with a sense of urgency, and taking a thoughtful risk. This basically forms the core of every policy, and being inclusive is a strong piece of our Mastercard way. Before I move on to the next slide to talk about what our practices look like, or basically how do we really look at being an inclusive organization for different backgrounds or different diversity, we basically would talk about a quick video, which is a very close to heart video of mine. It just, every time I see it, it really makes me feel a great organization I'm working for. And here it is.
It takes some of us time to realize that what we see in our reflections is just right. And that what we believe, what we feel, who we love, how we love, is just the way it's supposed to be. Our drive, our fears, our big goals and little quirks comprise the great story of who we are. And none of it happened by accident. We were made that way. And while each one of us is an original, every one of us has something in common. We all want to belong. That doesn't always come easy. Belonging takes a little courage, a little selflessness, a little step outside of our usual to see each other for our hearts, our talents, and our potential. But we can do it. We can see the good, accept each other for who we are, inspire connection, show compassion, and create a culture where we all belong. Because we're human, and we were made that way.
Whenever I see this video, it just brings me back to that thought that how important it is for an organization, for a society to hold hands together, ensure that we create a right space, irrespective of who I am, where I come from, what setup I belong to, ensure that I have that sense of security, a sense of psychological safety net to be able to perform my best. And at Mastercard, the aspect of psychological safety is taken very seriously. Any kind of biases have a check and balance so that they do not really impact an individual's career, they do not impact an individual's ability to perform. Every small feedback is taken into consideration and ensure that it's been heard and it's been implemented and corrected as well. And these feedbacks come from every corner of the organization. I also would want to say that there are different mechanisms through which we really look at these conversations, be it our ERGs, that's what we call as business resource groups. We have a very frequent and regular listening check-in. We have anonymous surveys. We also have stay interviews and we wouldn't want to call exit interviews, to be very honest. We have stay interviews to basically understand that, what is the concern that our women employees or diversity employees, be it LGBTQ, be it adaptive, be it basically physically challenged, what is it they're facing and what can we do to make our organization move better from an ecosystem perspective. And when we talk about looking at avenues for us to constantly strive and improve, we look at in these 4 parameters or 4 buckets. One, talent, just a second. One, talent, which talks about bringing in talent, bringing in members in the organization from various parts of underrepresented groups, and also looking at providing the right kind of opportunities for bringing people from diverse mindsets. When we look at culture, culture which certainly is a very important cornerstone for ensuring that our talent stays with us, and also our big ambassadors and amplifiers. We talk about advocating for diverse talent and removing barriers. The entire thing about unconscious biases, creating conscious inclusion, looking at building sensitivity for our colleagues, not only for the managers, but also for our colleagues, all these forms a part of our culture building initiative, right? And then we speak about paving the way for future. So a big piece of paving the way for future and ensuring that the diverse talent that we have brought from the outside or within the organization also stay with us, develop with us, grow with us, and hence providing those avenues and those opportunities for them. For example, we do have something called as Women Who Lead. That's one of the very fantastic programs that we have for women leadership, right? We have something called a Take Charge, which is driven through our WLN network, which basically brings in employees, women employees from various setups and various organizations, them step up, become more self-empowered, and also have a voice for themselves. Then we talk about sharing our story. Now, sharing our story essentially is celebrating, right? So wherever we have these stories, wherever we have these scenarios where we want to reach out to other women, role modeling, that's where we invite women employees to go and talk and celebrate their contexts and how they have been able to come up with those contexts. How is diversity successful? How is diversity and inclusion, or for that matter, belongingness successful? Is because we have driven initiatives at these 4 levels in our company. Of course, yes. And that's generally at the bottom of the pyramid when we look at our new fresh hire program, which we basically give an emphasis on, of course, meritocracy, but including meritocracy, we also look at the piece of diversity and providing equal opportunity for be a part of that. When we talk about culture, we talk about advocating a culture which supports each other's success, right? And want everyone to be a contributor in the success. So Man Alive programs, that's one of the initiatives that we have, where we want our male colleagues to basically be an equal part of diversity inclusion space. We speak about conscious inclusion, conscious bias. How do we really create those behaviors which bring in conscious inclusion? Looking at certain words like grandfathering, looking at the language piece, looking at how do we create a language which is more we, more inclusive, moving away from I. I think that is something which is very, it's continuously ingrained in the in our behavior through our various forums, like we have our my colleague Dave is already talking about L&D initiatives there on a panel session. We have something called as looking at conscious inclusion sessions. We also have structured programs, but of course, because of the COVID at this moment, we're not really focusing on structured programs, but we also have that. And we certainly have messages coming from our leadership. Our leadership continuously talks about what and how can we do to create a culture of inclusion. Paving way for future, I spoke about basically initiatives like Women Who Lead, or the Leadership Now program, wherein we look at giving a space for our women talent, and of course our younger and new generation women talent to develop those skills which will help them become more successful for their future roles. And sharing stories, of course, this is a continuous attempt. Every fortnightly or monthly, we do have stories coming forward from our women colleagues, from our other colleagues, talking about what they have been doing as basically in terms of the talent, in terms of their roles, to socialize and share with larger set of employees. Now, if I go to the next piece, this is basically an entire ecosystem of an employee life cycle in an organization. What happens at each stage? As an organization, what we have been doing to ensure that we have the right practices in place. And I think I just want to call out here a very important part. The important part I want to call out is that as an organization, we don't want to run behind fads. And I'm saying fads, if something is popular, something is, very attractive in the market, we don't want to pick that. We want to pick practices which mean something for our employees. They basically are the need for our employees and the right thing to do for our organization. I think that has helped us stay successful in terms of moving the needle when it comes to diversity and inclusion space. Let me just quickly call out on the various initiatives that we have been doing. Attraction. Uh, we look at proactive sourcing and pipeline building. We look at non-traditional sources of talent. When I'm saying non-traditional sources of talent, we are also looking at one of our returnship programs. So women who have been on sabbatical breaks, women who have basically taken a break for not only sabbatical, but for family elderly care, single parents who have been taking a break and want to get back to the industry. We look at those sources of talent also. We have a very strong program called India Returnship Program and the relauncher program. Both these programs essentially look at having women employees come back to work. Having said that, there's also a strong learning and development plan associated for these kind of colleagues to become successful. Then we look at avenues where they can build networks and relationships. I think one of the forums that we're talking about right now is Jobs for Her, right? So there are multiple forums that we work with, multiple organizations that we work with, where we offer opportunities for women colleagues to go and showcase their talent there, build networks, interact with each other, basically demonstrate their thought leadership as well. And this happens throughout the year. Not only that, we also have a strong BRG called as Women Leadership Network, wherein we invite professionals coming from various backgrounds, not necessarily just women employees, but basically employees who have been able to challenge their status quo, have basically demonstrated that barriers are just a more, and you have that. If you have that in you, you can basically cross those barriers. We invite those kind of speakers to our forum to essentially share their learnings. And this is a continuous learning process that we have. And partnerships. We do have partnerships with organizations, with Amplify and our ambassadors for diversity and inclusion, so that we are able to support this cause and bring it to the larger society as well. I think one last piece I would like to talk about in attraction, which is not mentioned here, is our signature program, rather called Girls for Tech. We do understand that there is going to be eventually a challenge with women in technology talent over a period of 10, 12 years. And we know that for us to help build that talent, there's a responsibility on our side as an organization, as an employee, either. So what can we do to ensure that there's a continuous pipeline of talent on the STEM piece? We have partnered basically with organizations which help us create content which can help girl students in the standard of 6 to 8, where we go to the schools and help them understand what entire STEM is, what basically curriculums like cryptography, databases. We talk about subjects which are associated with STEM so that they are able to understand it, and there's an interest which is created in them around the STEM. So that's something which is basically, and our research says that when you get them introduced to these subjects and in a way that they understand it, in a way that they find it appealing, there are higher chances that they'll pick up those subjects as they move forward for the graduation. Let me talk about the recruitment piece. I did hear my previous panelists talk about diversity slates, and I think that is something which is now a very common practice in most of the organizations which are really serious about diversity and inclusion. I just want to go a step further. So diversity slates, of course, is important, which means that for every open position, we try to look at least minimum one women candidate. I think we are moving a step further. We're also seeing that, do we have internal women representing for these positions? Because it is very easy to buy from the market. However, our success also lies in the fact that we have equal women employees within the organization wanting to raise their hands and grow. And have we done the right job in terms of helping them take up the next level roles through our learning and development and our talent management initiatives? So I think that is something which is very important I wanted to call out. And I'm very proud to say that we had 68% of our women employees last year of the total career progression that we had who had taken up larger roles or who had taken up extended assignments. And I think we have absolutely moved the needle compared to 2015, where we were to where we are today. Uh, Diverse interview panel, again, it is essentially again a practice which is now prevalent in most of the organizations. Having said that, a step ahead that we want to do here, which we have done, is sensitizing a diverse panel. So when we have a panel representing all genders, we also have educated them, sensitized them on what questions should be asked and what should not be asked. One piece is that. The second piece, I think, and which is also important piece, is ensuring that we respect the personal space of the employee and ask questions which are associated to performance or the roles the individual has done in the previous lives. Uh, then we also have partnered with consultants and with our hiring partners outside to help us look at women talent. That is one. But however, I think the second thing which we have done is we have ensured that people who recommend right talent and especially diversity for our open roles, and they get selected, do get a better premium in terms of recommendation or referral bonus. And that has helped us really bring in more women employees in the system. So that's on the recruitment front that we have been doing. The recruitment front also has a strong call out. And because we're talking about diversity practices, I want to speak about our relauncher program. Our relauncher program. So our relauncher program essentially looks at campus hires, and in the campus hire programs, we look at going to universities which has a better ratio of women employees, women students there, so that we have a better pool. The unfortunate part is that most of the universities today do not really have that strong pool of women engineers, right? And hence we make a conscious effort to go to those kind of institutes also, which has a better representation of women students in their campus. And then talk about the ecosystem. Sorry. So how does the ecosystem look like? We do bring in talent from outside. We ensure that we give them the right avenues to learn and grow. However, it is important that we also do the right initiatives for them to stay in the company, number one. Number two, we are able to understand their challenges. And number three, they look at us as a preferred employer. And a few things which we have been doing is the Whole You program. Our Whole You program is basically a bouquet of initiatives, which includes higher education. So if I wish to go and pursue some higher education in the space of, let's say, computer engineering, finance management, payment ecosystem, I am allowed to do that, right? And it is basically as per my need on where I want to move forward in my career. Our Whole You program also has an important part of Flexi Working. To be very honest, our Flexi Working is not just really specific to a certain gender. It is absolutely gender neutral. And Flexi Working something is helps our employees stay productive, feel a sense of convenience, and also are able to work at their time and pace. Last but not the least, we knew that the COVID has thrown a whole lot of emotional and mental challenges. March 22nd was the first day of lockdown, and since then it's more than 250 days that we have been working remotely. There have been multiple needs. There have been needs of the family. There have been needs of taking care of kids. There have been needs of ensuring that we are able to take care of our elderly parents or elderly family members. And for that, it certainly takes a toll on us as the employees of the company. And hence organizations like Mastercard, us, have been very conscious about this kind of emotional strain which might come on the employees, and have introduced apps like Thrive Well and Thrive and Live Well apps. These apps basically are sources where I can look for answers to my questions, which I'm basically facing, and I would be hesitant to go and ask somebody on. Over and about this, we also have something called as Family Employee Health Resource Program, which means that we basically provide psychologists, and consultants who can help me answer my questions if there are some challenges which I'm facing in terms of my mental well-being or my relationships. One important piece of my entire ecosystem is also rewards and benefits, right? And I must say with a sense of pride that we are absolutely competitive when it comes to rewards and benefits for our colleagues. We do have a maternity coverage of 1 lakh rupees for our colleagues. We support through our inclusive family building program, surrogacy, infertility treatment, and the cost of that is covered. And last but not the least, the COVID certainly was something which was an eye opener, realizing that during a situation of pandemic, a lot of stress comes on the women employees because they play multiple hats. They play a hat of a homemaker, they play a hat of a caregiver, they also play a hat of basically being a mother or basically being the caretaker for the family. And in that, if any family is stuck with a COVID diagnosis of a COVID thing, it becomes all the more challenging because it had a lot of stress on the family as well as the individual and specifically women employees. With this, the organization also introduced 10 COVID days of leave, which means that anyone who feels that they wish to basically take a break because of COVID circumstances, because of the lockdown, because of the stress which is coming because of the lockdown, they could go and avail 10 working days of holiday. And then we speak about the development and retention. While I touched upon the development and retention during my earlier conversations, but then I want to specifically call out the career opportunities where, as I mentioned, diversity slates, of course, but for even internal positions, we ensure that we have women employees applying for that, number one. Number two, mentorship. Mentorship and reverse mentoring, both are a very strong element of our development and retention. We do offer our colleagues mentorship initiatives, the high potential, so that they can learn from someone else. We do have the 3E model that we talk about, but in the 3E model, exposure and ensuring that we're able to provide that kind of thinking where the employee is able to ask questions, is able to seek guidance, is able to even look at how to navigate further as they move up on the career ladder. There is a mentor available to the individual. So I think these are some of the strong initiatives that Mastercard has been doing, and absolutely we have come a long way compared to 2015 on where we are, and we still feel that we are on a journey where we'll keep improvising.
That's awesome to hear from you, Sonali. I think we really enjoyed your session. I am sure the attendees have also enjoyed to hear from you. Thank you so much, Sonali. We are very pleased to be hearing you on all the points you shared with us.